Hello, today we're going to do a presentation about quotation marks. But what is a quotation mark?
Quotation marks. Quotation marks are like weekends, they work in pairs. Quotation marks indicate direct quotation, enclose the exact words of a speaker, and are used in a few other special situations.
Okay, now we're gonna see some of the uses that quotation marks have. For example, we use quotation marks to enclose the exact words of the speaker. Now we have some examples.
The first example says, Carly said, I'm not ever going back there again. On the second, the client said he thought our manuscript was garbage. The third, Madison said, let's stop at the farmer's market to buy some fresh vegetables for dinner.
Okay, in these examples, we can see that the quotation marks are showing us what the speaker says. In this case, uh, the quotation mark indicates what Carly said, and she said that I'm not even going to back. I'm going back there again. Now we will continue with another use that quotation mark have, and this is we use quotation marks to acknowledge sources. For example,
According to the movie critic at my favorite website, the new film's special effects are completely mind-boggling.
okay, in this example, the quotation marks are indicating what the movie critic said or what he expressed. And now we will continue with the other uses that quotation marks have.
Hello, my name is Angela, and now I'm going to talk about use quotation marks to identify titles or short works. Okay, use quotation marks to identify titles of short works, such as short stories, essays, poems, songs, or book chapters. For books or complete longer works, use italics or underline the title. For example, they sang "O Canada" before the hockey game. The example, in lesson 2, you read the poem "The Road Race Traveled." Italics and quotation marks are generally used to set a composition title apart from the text surrounding it. For example, if you were writing the sentence, I read the cat in the hat, it wouldn't necessarily be clear what the book title was, or even that word was a book title at all. When in doubt, consider whether a piece can be broken into smaller pieces. If it can, such as a novel into chapters or an album into songs, use italics. If it can't, use quotation marks. By practicing the above rule for using italics.
Good afternoon, Mister. Now we will continue with the presentation about quotation marks, and now we're gonna talk about quotations within quotations and the cases that can be presented.
And the first case to explain this quotation within quotations is if you need to put a quote inside another quotation, use single quotation marks. For example,
Okay, we have two examples. The first one is she said, I read the chapter, the top three, yesterday. Second, Bobby told me, Delia said, this will never work. And the last one is Bobby said, I read an interesting article titled A Poor Woman's Journey. We have three examples.
so in this explanation, we can see in the sentences that the single quotation is inside the quotation marks. So For example, I read the chapter and the next is the single quotation. The tall tree and yesterday. So is the last part of the complete quotation marks.
Okay, now we will continue with other case that can be presented. Okay, there are always needs to be a comma or another form of punctuation between the quotation and the speaker. With this, we have three cases. The first one is the punctuation always falls beside the last word in the first part of the sentence. If the quotation comes first, the comma is placed inside the quotation. We have examples here.
The first example says, "This is a new car," comma. Jeff explained. Or the second, "We will buy a new computer," comma, stated Joseph. So
Okay,
in
in these
this
cases, we can see that the quotation comes first. So that's why we put a comma inside the quotation marks and then we continue with the rest of the sentence. We have,
case is if the speaker comes first, the comma is placed before the quotation begins. For example,
for example, we have, she said, come home. As a second example, we have Joseph stated, we will buy a new computer soon. And you explained this is a new car.
so in this explanation we can see that the comma is outside of the punctuation marks because it's next to the speaker and the punctuation marks is the second part of the sentence.
Exactly, is there's a speaker first than the quotation mark. That's why we put a comma. Okay, and the third case is the quotation always begins with a capital, except if it is broken in half by the speaker. Okay, we have some examples.
The first says, "We will buy a computer soon," Joseph stated, "and then we will get high-speed internet."
Okay, as a
So
second example,
I didn't see an actual alien being, Mr. John says, but I sure wish I had. So in this explanation, we can see that the second quotation mark it begins without capital letter. So the first the beginning of the sentence uh, is with capital letter. We will buy a computer soon. But the second part of the sentence begins without capital letter. And then we will get high speed internet.
okay, as my classmate said, in these cases, there are two different sentences, but there's one speaker. For example, in this case, I didn't see an actual alien being. Mr. Johnson said, Mr. Johnson is the speaker, but I sure wish I had. Here, the speaker has broken the two sentences of the whole quotation mark. He has broken into two parts. Um, Now we will continue with another case that can be presented is for end punctuation, periods always go inside the quotation if it is the last part of the sentence. We have some examples.
The first example says, "The small girl said sweetly, 'Mommy, I love you.'"
And the
And
second
second,
example,
"Mr. Johnson, who was working in this field that morning, said, 'The alien spaceship appeared right before my own two eyes.'"
okay.
So we can see that the period is in the last part of the sentence where the punctuation marks are.
Well, in these cases, the period goes because this is the last part of the both sentences. Mommy, I love you. That's a period. There the sentence ends, and my own two eyes in this point is where the sentence finishes. Now, we continue with here there are two cases. The first one is place question marks and exclamation marks inside is the first sentence is the first case when goes inside if they are part of the quotation. The second case is when is outside and that's because they are part of the main sentence. We have examples here.
The first sample says, "Do you read wisely?" And the
And the
second,
second one,
"Did the teacher really say you don't have any homework over spring break?" So
okay, in these cases, the exclamation mark goes outside because it's part of the main sentence, of the whole sentence. Now we have another two examples.
the first says, "I ask, did we meet?" And the second,
And the second
the
one,
nurse approached her beside and quietly asked, "How are you feeling today?"
okay, in these two cases, the question mark goes inside the quotation because it is a part of the quotation. It's not a part of the whole sentence. Okay, continue.
The next case says that every time the speaker changes, start a new paragraph so your reader can follow the dialogue.
Okay,
So,
here we have
example,
an example where it's like a dialogue and we will start. The first one, please clean your room, mom said.
I replied, "I don't want to clean my room."
Okay. Then you will not go to the park today, she told me.
"I guess I will clean my room," I explained.
Okay. In this case, we can see that there's like a dialogue and we can follow according to the quotation marks. So that's all for this explanation and thank you.